And I talked to Dr. Anderson the other day, and he was mentioning parts of the book that he was looking forward to us hearing, and I'm trying to remember what part he was referring to. Um, oh, daggone it. What was it? What was it? What was it? Oh, Lord, I'm trying to. Oh, come on. I'm searching through my brain to try to find it. We had a great conversation. He was like, "Make sure you tell them this." And just like me, I forgot what this was. It's in my brain somewhere. I just got to go find it. But he was literally telling me that there's some stuff that he really wanted you to know, and it had to. I gotta talk to him again. So when I talk to him, I'll bring it up again, and hopefully he'll remember. He's so smart. He's older, but his brain works better than 99% of us. So anyway, I hope everybody's doing well. In case you don't know what we've been doing, we've been reading the book Dirty Little Secrets by Dr. Claude Anderson. We've already finished Powernomics. We've already finished Black Labor, White Wealth. We've already finished the Black History Reader. And by the way, if you want recordings of all the trainings that we've already done on these topics, just go to drboycebookclub.com. That's drboycebookclub.com, and you can get access to all the record. There's probably hundreds and hundreds of recordings in there by now, and so you can just download them and share them with your whole family. Feel free to go to drboycebookclub.com. Okay, so let's hop in and let's get it cracking. Let's get started here. And last week we were talking about how educating Black people was taboo. The discussion was literally surrounding how hard people work to keep Black people from running schools, I understand why they would work so hard to stop it because Black people educating Black people would lead to something that no one wants, which is Black success. Even a lot of Black people don't want Black success because with success and with power comes responsibility, and some people don't want responsibility. I think that being a victim allows you to escape and evade responsibility. I just have to be honest with you. So I would say that this conversation, these meetings, are for people who don't want to be victims anymore. All right. So let me see here. All right, so I'm gonna send out a text to you guys to let everyone else know that we're starting now because they're probably mad because I was so late and I'm so sorry about that. Give me like I always ask for the 10-minute rule. That's what I used to do at Syracuse. Is I would tell my students, give me 10 minutes. If I ain't there in 10 minutes, then you can bail on me. But again though, my apologies for the delay. All right, so here let's jump to page 17, and it's the book is called the Dirty Little Secrets. You can get a copy at powernomics.com. That's Dr. Anderson's website. And this is something that a lot of us never learned in school. And I guarantee you, every time we meet, you're going to learn at least three or four things that you never learned in school. And so here he has a chapter called "The Last Returned Fugitive Slave." The last returned fugitive slave. So I guess the last slave that ran away and got caught and had to go back home. It says here, until the eve of the Civil War, escaped slaves were still returned to their masters in the South under the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850. Lucy Bagby Johnson was the last fugitive slave captured and shipped back to her former owner under the act. Police officers abducted Johnson from her home of a white from the home of a white employer in Cleveland, Ohio in 1861. A group of local white citizens organized to protest Johnson's arrest, acquiring the assistance of sympathetic lawyers who successfully defended her in court. But as soon as she was set free, U.S. Marshals, once again acting under the Fugitive Slave Act, arrested her. A federal commissioner who heard the case turned out to be sympathetic, offered money to buy Johnson her freedom. But he also ruled that, quote, the law was the law, end quote, and Lucy Johnson had to be returned to her West Virginia master, who was unwilling to accept compensation for her freedom. So the apparently the commissioner who was sympathetic offered to buy her freedom, and the person who owned her at the time basically said, "No, you're not buying my slave. I'm not. This property of mine is not for sale." Isn't that interesting? How many of you have ever heard of this person? Her name, she was the last fugitive slave. Her name was Lucy Johnson. Anybody go to that one public school out of a million that might have taught you about stuff like this? How many of y'all, anybody hear about this in high school? All right, let's keep going. This is why we need to be teaching our own history. Stop worrying about whether or not white people are teaching you about civil rights. You know, you can read yourself. You don't really need a teacher in a public school to teach your kids. You can do this. All right, moving on. When the Civil War began, Johnson's determined master, this is Lucy Johnson, tried to maintain his ownership by moving her further into the Deep South, where pro-slavery sentiments were more rigid than the rest of the country. Johnson was eventually rescued from her owner's vicious grip by a Union officer who took a liking to her. Okay, so the Union officer, I guess he took a liking to her. I don't know what that means exactly, but okay, he took a liking to her. After President Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation, Johnson met and married another former Union officer who had settled in Cleveland, Ohio. The couple remained there until her death in 1906. So it looks like Lucy, even though they took her back into slavery, she died a free woman. God bless Lucy, and I think that's great. Okay, the next section, the last boatload of slaves. So these are the last slaves that were brought over on the boats from Africa. Okay, so let's see here. So Dr. Anderson, just this man that has all these like little golden facts that many of us don't know. So he says here. International slave trading was outlawed in the United States in 1807, but illegal international and domestic legal slave trading continued right up until the Civil War began. So apparently, international slave trading had been made illegal in 1807. The writing was on the wall. They knew slavery probably wasn't going to last, but they had a lot of illegal international slave trading and domestic legal slave trading. So let's see. The Clothhild docked. That's the name of the ship. The Clothhild docked in Alabama in 1859 with a slave cargo, making it possibly the last ship to bring illegal slaves into an American port. The ship carried approximately 130 men, women, and children who had been kidnapped from Tarkar, a village in West Africa. So they went to Tarkar, this village in West Africa, kidnapped 130 men, women, and children, those poor kids. The ship's captain, William Fowler, eluded federal authorities patrolling the Mississippi Sound. So apparently they had told them that it's illegal to trade slaves, and so in order for them to evade capture or whatever, they were sort of hiding from these patrol. I guess the slave patrols. They also had the patrols that patrolled to make sure you weren't selling slaves, right? Okay. Unfortunately for Fowler, the pending Civil War had drastically closed down most slave markets. He was unable to sell the slaves, so he set them free as soon as the war started. The last shipment of black slaves was able to stay together, and they stayed together. Check this out. This is interesting. The last shipment of black slaves was able to stay together, and they formed a village called Africatown in an area known as Plateau near Mobile, Mobile, Alabama. Who knew that? They were probably the only blacks able to keep their American customs, names, and language. Descendants of these black slaves can still be found in East Mobile. Let's see, Cujo Lewis, the last of the original Tarkar slaves, died in 1935. Now, I want to ask y'all a question. I want you to answer in the chat. I want you to guess. What year did the last black slave die? All right, so Jeopardy clock's ticking. Do 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 boom boom boom. Okay, I see 1970, 1935, 1940, still alive. That might be 2024. Or when the last slave died, 2088. Because y'all, some of us still slaves. Slaves in the freaking mind, man. All right, okay, 1936, 1930. All right, here we go. All right, the answer is October 2nd, 1979. The last former slave black died in October 2nd, 1979. Charlie Smith, who claimed to be America's only living former slave, passed at an unbelievable 137 years of age. Damn. No, you can live that long. So 137. Doing the math, carry the one. What's that? 1842? Is that right? Am I doing the math right? 1842. Wow. He was like a teenager when when the Civil War started. Okay, Smith lived in North Florida in the heart of the old Cotton Belt. In a public ceremony in the mid 1970s, Governor Reuben Askew of Florida recognized Smith with a special certificate of merit. Smith's mind remained lucid on his personal life, slavery, and Black history up until his death. Wow. Shout out to Mr. Charlie Smith. There we go. That seems like that would be a good question on a history test. Who was the last slave that died? I think Charlie deserves recognition for that. Just making it to 137 is pretty impressive. All right. So here, now I'm on page 21. I'm reading the book Dirty Little Secrets by Dr. Claude Anderson. You can get copies of all of his books at powernomics.com. Summertime is coming. Don't waste time. We waste a lot of money, but more importantly, we waste time because all that time can be invested in knowledge. It can also be invested in culture and it can be invested in economics. So when you have time, you buy stock, so you will have that wealth in a decade or so or more, right? Number two, you invest time in learning, right? You learn things, make sure the kids are learning stuff, right? You are the public school system, and then also you invest in culture. You build a culture of wealth, a culture of success, a culture of true power. And so be intentional about this. Summertime's coming. A lot of free times out there. Dr. Anderson's books are great. Read for your kids. Maybe you do this as a family. You talk about the concepts, bring them to this class. This is free, by the way. This is Power Now. I mean, we've been doing this for about what 6 years now, something like that. And so this doesn't cost a nickel. So you don't have to pay money. You just have to pay attention. Okay. So anybody who runs around saying that black people can't get an education because they changed the laws is lying. That is 100% untrue. The reason you think that we can't get an education is because you believe that somebody else has to educate you. I have a whole doctorate. I can educate you all day long. You can educate yourself. We can educate each other. So stop thinking that you need other people because they're going to do it wrong. About 70% of everything you read in Dr. Anderson's book is not even going to be covered in the public school system. So why in the hell would you want to go into a building where they're going to teach you how wonderful white people are? Like, that doesn't make any sense. That's illogical. That's crazy. So anyway, let me keep reading. Heroes and heroines. There will arise a champion to fight my cause. Many facts. In the late 1890s, James Parker, a black man, knocked down and captured Leon F. Colzogs, the assassin who had just shot President William McKinley at the Buffalo Exposition. In 1895, W.E.B. Du Bois was the first black person awarded a PhD from Harvard University. He was the first to introduce the concept of Pan-Africanism and became recognized as Black America's most prominent scholar and activist. Isn't it funny? His name's Boyce. Look at that. I'm like, and my middle name starts with a D, so I'm like, he's D Boyce. I'm Boyce D, Boise D. Like it sounds like a rap name, right? Little Boise D. All right. In 1908, Jack Johnson defeated Tommy Burns in a 14-round boxing match in Sydney, Australia, to become the first black heavyweight champion of the world. 1908. That's when Jack Johnson did this. A national hero, John Brown. On the morning of December 2nd, 1859, as John Brown's body hung from the gallows in Charleston, Virginia, free and enslaved blacks across America kneeled and wept in his honor. They prayed for his soul because they knew that they had lost a friend and devoted protector. He was a true ally. John Brown was he was pretty gangster. Ironically, John Brown was a descendant of Peter Brown, a passenger on the Mayflower that brought the first freedom seekers to America. Even the name John Brown sounded black enough to give black people comfort. But John Brown was not black. He was a white revolutionary who believed he had been ordained by God to free the black race from enslavement, even if it meant his own death. Can you imagine if every black man, every black boy, every black child was raised to be willing to put their life on the line to free their own people? They I remember a long time ago when Kanye made that crazy statement where he said it was crazy because Kanye's a little crazy for sure, but sometimes there's a little genius in the crazy because he's a genius. He's crazy, but he's a genius. He's a crazy genius. And he said slavery was a choice, and that was very controversial, right? A lot of people got mad about that. Like, no, they had no choice. And I honestly, deep down, I didn't talk about it much, but I was like, well, you kind of always have a choice, because I study options, right? Options, and you always have a choice. You just might have a hard choice, right? Like Native Americans, they said, "Yeah, we got a choice. You want to make me a slave? Well, you just have to kill me. That's my choice. I'm choosing to die." A lot of black people did. A lot of black people did the same thing, right? And I'm not saying that it was an easy choice at all, but I do think that overall, I don't think you ever are better off in life when someone has convinced you that you don't have a choice. You always have a choice. If you don't like your life, you got a choice to fix it. If you don't like your relationship, you got a choice to change. You just aren't making that choice because it's too costly, but you have a choice. Everybody has a choice. So stop letting people make you think you don't have a choice because when they convince you that you're powerless and you don't have a choice, that is a way people steal your power. And when they steal your power and you feel powerless and you don't feel like you have a choice, then you start to feel trapped. And all the studies show that people who feel trapped in their lives are more likely to suffer from depression and anxiety. The black depression is very, very high. There's a trauma depression epidemic in the black community. Nobody talks about it. I don't know why no one talks about it. I heard Jamal Bryant talking about the rampant spread of HIV in the black community. They talked about Houston and Atlanta having the highest rates of HIV in the country, which shouldn't surprise anybody because unfortunately we got spaces that almost are like Sodom and Gomorrah. And now the more difficult question I would love to ask Jamal Bryant, I met him. He's a nice guy. We went to Ghana together. Is I would say, well, what would you expect to happen if you have a community down in Atlanta where even the pastors got babies, mamas. Even the pastors are out here sleeping with women and children and little boys and little girls and all that. Even the people that are supposed to be the spiritual leaders are not imposing discipline on the congregation, nor are they imposing it on themselves. So, of course, you're going to have this epidemic because really you've allowed Sodom and Gomorrah to flourish in that space. It's because so really at the end of the day, if you can't have some type of discipline, like again, this is my challenge to a more liberal mindset. I have nothing against liberalism, but everything don't have to be liberal all the time. Sometimes you got to conserve something, you got to protect something, you got to defend something, you got to draw some boundaries somewhere. I'm not telling you what those boundaries need to be, but you should be aware of what those boundaries are because discipline is required to build a community. You can't build a community where everybody scatters and does whatever they want to do and does whatever feels good in the moment and chases pleasure for a living and things like that. This is the society that you have. You have a society where everyone's encouraged to engage in instant gratification. That's why in America you have the fattest country on the planet. You have the sickest group of people on earth. Everyone's struggling and broke. Marriages don't last. All these things are happening because discipline is not cool, right? Instant gratification is pursued, and that what that does is that undermines one of the core principles of investing, which is delay gratification. If you want to ever build anything, whether you're trying to build a stock portfolio, you're going to have delayed gratification. If you're trying to build a family, you got to have delayed gratification. You're trying to build your health, you got to have delayed gratification. So at some point, somebody has to stop and say, okay, you know what? Everything can't go. We're not going to be okay with everything. We're not going to say everything's all right. We're going to draw some lines, and you can build on top of that. So anyway, that's my quick statement on that. I think none of that surprises me that yeah, of course, everything's going to rot and fall to hell because nobody's stopping and saying, hey, no, no, I'm putting my foot down on that. That I'm standing on business with this. We're not doing that. We're not going in that direction. So here, let me keep going here. Let me keep reading. All right. So with his message from God and the party of 21, including his sons, daughters, and five blacks, John Brown invaded the state of Virginia, captured the town of Harper's Ferry, seized the U.S. Armory, and freed some 50 slaves. With this series of revolutionary acts, the white militant almost single-handedly created the passionate emotional climate that led to the Civil War. More than any other white before or since, Brown confronted the issue of black liberation forthrightly and at a high personal cost. He sacrificed not just his own life, but the lives of a number of his own children. In paying his last respects to Brown, Frederick Douglass said, Brown's struggle in the cause of freedom was superior to mine. Mine was a small light. His was a burning sun. Mine was bound by time. His stretched away to the silent shores of eternity. As a black man, I am willing to speak for the slave. John Brown, a white man, was willing to die for the slave. How do you explain this? John Brown's raid on Harper's Ferry appears to have failed primarily because it was not supported by visible black leadership. Y'all don't have some weak ass leaders since the very beginning. I'm sorry, Congressional Black Caucus all the way down. Just a bunch of little turds up here just trying to lead the community, leading you straight to hell. I'm not a fan of most black leadership. Most black leadership bothers me because it ain't true leadership. You got to lead yourself. You got to gain the knowledge and understanding to drive your own car, drive your own bus, get off of these, these big bandwagons they want you to get on because that ain't doing nothing but leading you to cities that have failed. People, your kids still dying in the street. Black wealth is going down. Black kids graduating from school can't hardly read. Who in the hell is leading all this nonsense? I'm not participating in that. I want my kids to know how to read, write, do math, and have a skill. I want them to know how to start a business and build some wealth. I want the community to be safe for my children and my family. I don't understand why these are considered to be bad principles or conservative principles or whatever the hell people think. No, you defend your own people. You have to do this. And Dr. Claude Anderson does this. He's writing this book. So let's keep going. Let me keep reading. All right. So here he said, he says basically that John Brown couldn't succeed because of failed visible black leadership. In preparing for the raid, John Brown wanted a black leader such as Harriet Tubman or Frederick Douglass to join his crusade and call the slaves to arms. Brown believed black slaves would not rally to an unknown white man, but both Tubman and Douglass declined to join his party. After seizing and holding Harper's Ferry for 2 days, Brown's judgment was proven correct. So he's holding down the fort. He's holding Harper's Ferry. He's like, look, I done set it off. I done started the revolution. Now all y'all got to join me, right? And I'll be damned if, according to Dr. Anderson, if we did not fail him because we had the spirit of the coward injected in us. And this is to do to things like buck breaking and stuff like that. We don't even know what to do when you see a free black man or a free black woman. Half y'all get scared. And so this is really interesting, actually. And so you know what it reminds me of? I remember one time when I was 14, my best friend, he was getting bullied by this guy. There's this guy from his family moved in from Detroit. And in Kentucky, we didn't know how to I love y'all from Detroit, but y'all different from Kentucky. They moved down south and they were like the rawest and the roughest of the rough. They were a tough little family. I'm just gonna say that. And they didn't shower that much. They would stink a lot too. They just did. I'm not saying Detroit people. So I love Detroit. I'm speaking in Detroit pretty soon. So God bless Detroit for sure. But y'all know, you got people that's. But I'm from Kentucky. Come on, you know, like your cousin is also your daddy, that type of place. So anyway, so let me stop. So anyway, so here's what happened. So basically, we're on the basketball court, and my friend was getting bullied. This kid from Detroit, he was kind of a tough kid. He was pushing him every time he would go up for a layup. He pushed him down, and so I am like, I'm kind of nervous too because I'm 14, and this guy's big. He's big. He's got more muscles than me. I'm like, man, this guy will whoop my butt. I don't know what to do with this guy. So here was my thinking as a 14-year-old. I said, okay, I can't let my friend get whooped like this. So I'm gonna step in and defend him. And I can't take him by myself, but together we can take him to as a team, right? I'm thinking this is the plan. It was a great plan. So I jump up and I'm like, hey man, you need to step. Blah, blah, blah. So he pushes me, I push him back because I'm thinking my boy's gonna back me up. And you know what this little sucker did? He literally grabs his basketball, sits down, and watches us fight. So I'm in the middle of this fight looking over at him like, dude, what are you doing? Man, get up. I was so mad. To this day, it's 40 years later. I need therapy on this. I'm still mad at him because that little punk stepped to the side and watched me fight his battle. I'm not even supposed to be in this fight. I'm a spectator. He wasn't picking on me because I was bigger than him. He could probably beat me in a fight, but I was more like a 50-50 in his head. But whereas with him, it was like 90-10. He knew he could whoop him. So he didn't mess with me. He was messing with him. And here I am trying to defend you, and you ain't even jump in the fight, you punk. So that's the thing. I imagine John Brown felt that way. This man done went out, put his own family's life on the line to stand up and fight for people that aren't even in his own family. And even the people that he's defending are too scared to stand up and support him. Imagine if all the slaves had said, okay, let's all get in here and let's go stand by this guy. This guy done set it off. He done ran out there. He done shot the first shot. We need to go out here and fight for him. Well, if they done that, then maybe history would have been a little bit different. Right. So what I'm saying is, here's the deal. Look, let's translate this so I don't sound like a complete crazy person. I want to talk about battles that are being fought in your own family. I want to talk about you. I want to talk about your family. I want to talk about your cousin who is trying to break a generational curse and step out here and start a business. Well, you see them step out and start the business. You don't sit back like that little punk ass friend I had and just sit with your popcorn and say, I wonder if they gonna make it. I wonder if she quit that good job at the post office. I hope it works out, girl. I'm praying for you. No, you see your friend go out there and fight this difficult battle because 80% of black-owned businesses fail. You jump out there with them. You say, I'm so inspired by you taking action that I'm gonna be right there with you. I'll go down with the ship with you. I'm gonna pitch in however I can. I'll fight next to you. And then others become inspired by that. See, you got to learn how to lead. You got to lead. And I'm sorry, I know I'm crazy, but I'm proud to be crazy because I believe that good leaders are crazy people. You're crazy enough to go out here, believe in the impossible, put it on the line, Go hard in the paint as hard as you can. And then what happens is other people become inspired by that, and then they start to follow. You lead with energy. You don't lead by all this yapping and talking and all this other stuff some of these people do. No, you get out there and you do it, and you lead by example, and then you will inspire others around you. But the other thing is sometimes you're not the leader. Maybe you're following the leader. You draw from that, or you say, you know what, you need help. I'm going to jump in the fight with you. We might both get beat up, but you won't get beat up by yourself. Do you understand? Because one of the saddest things about trying to start businesses in the black community is that a lot of times you go out here and you're doing something different, and you end up dying on that hill all alone, all by yourself. When there are plenty of people in your family that could have helped on some level, they could have bought a product. They could have helped you network with people that could help you sell the product. They could have offered some free labor. They could have offered some moral support. They could have made an investment, but they didn't do shit because they sitting on the sideline with their popcorn watching to see if you make it or not. That's a punk move. This that's bad culture. We have to eliminate that immediately. In fact, there was one more story. I knew a guy who literally he wanted to start a dry cleaners. True story. So he talks to his brother and says, "I want to start a dry cleaners." His brother is in the streets, living his best life, tricking off his money like an idiot, and says, "Well, I don't really want to work that hard on the business, so you go get it going, and then I'll join you later." So the brother goes off and starts the dry cleaners. It becomes enormously successful. So next thing you know, he's got a whole lot of money. He's driving a nice car. He's living in the nicest house in the family. And then now this brother wants to come along and get on board. And the brother's like, "No, I asked you, I invited you to invest with me, and you didn't want to invest with me. I asked you to delay gratification. You wanted instant gratification. I asked you to join me in this journey, and you had other things to do. So now don't be coming to me now that I'm making money. Like now that I'm successful, you better get your ass up out of here." And I don't blame him one bit. I don't blame him one bit. In many cases, you have a visionary in your family that can take things to the next level. And some of y'all are so scared and backwards and caught up and brainwashed that you won't even see the opportunity to be a part of something great. This is hard, and I'm probably speaking from experience because I had a whole lot of relatives that didn't care nothing about what I was doing, didn't believe in it, didn't support it, didn't want to know nothing about it, and then suddenly when I have money, it's like, "Oh, hey, cuz, how you doing, cuz? I'm having this problem, cuz." Shut up, get off my phone. I'm not even. I'm not. Don't call me no more. Don't call me. So what I'm saying to you is, you can't. Don't be that person. Don't be that. Be conscious of your environment. Nothing will change until we take action, and the action must be deliberate. If you take deliberate action on a consistent basis and continue to work on your growth and development and work together as a team, then you will achieve success levels that are higher than others who are out here trying to figure it out by themselves and by just simply doing what everybody else is doing and living like everybody else is living. Because most people out here in America are not financially secure. That's a fact. That's just a fundamental fact. So get in the battle, man, and don't be scared to go fight. And then when you find others that can support you or find others that have that courage, stand with them. Whatever you can do, just stand with them. Let them know that you care. Let them know you're checking in and whatever, because it's lonely to try to start something by yourself. It's really hard. All right, so let me keep going. All right. More than any other race before or since, Brown confronted the issue of black liberation forthrightly and at a high personal cost. He sacrificed. Oh, I mentioned that. Okay. Um, Okay, so his raid failed primarily because it was not supported by visible black leadership. In preparing for the raid, John Brown wanted a black leader to help him, and they didn't. We mentioned that. After seizing and holding Harper's Ferry for 2 days, Brown's judgment was proven correct. The slaves did not rally to his side. Outgunned, Brown waited too long for the slaves to rise up, allowing federal troops the time to travel from Washington, D.C., and capture his raiding party. Ironically, John Brown, a white man, was a national hero to blacks, just as Hayward Shepherd, a black man, was a traitor to blacks. Hayward Shepherd, a black railroad porter, recognized Brown's raiding party as it rolled into town. Rather than assisting the liberators, he tried in vain to warn the town that it was promptly killed by the raiders. After hanging Brown and his party for attempting to free slaves, the town erected a monument honoring Hayward Shepherd for his contribution to black enslavement. How about that? So they call that meritorious manumission. A lot of you know that term. So basically, this guy Hayward Shepherd, Negro of the Year, literally goes and warns the town that they're coming to liberate black people, And there's still a lot of Hayward Shepherds around now. He got a lot of he must have had a lot of kids because I see a lot of Hayward Shepherd descendants out here. Some of them are black leaders. Lord Jesus. All right, so let me keep going. John Horse, a black hero. Okay, let's read this. The runaway slave John Horse had the distinction of being one of the few, if not the only black in American history who stood up and fought both slaveholders and the U.S. Army. Woo, that's a bad boy. He did so for more than 50 years of his life and amazingly was never defeated in battle nor captured. How about that? Now I know some of y'all might have heard that name because the John Horse is a more popular name, but let's be honest. How many of you never heard of John Horse? How many of you never learned about him in school? Let's say that. Give me a yes if they did not mention him at your public school. Though I mean I would say that this man should be mentioned as quickly as Martin Luther King or anybody else, right? Let's keep going. Well, we're gonna learn about him today. You're gonna learn today. When John Horse escaped slavery, he chose Florida as his sanctuary around 1820. Like hundreds of other runaway slaves, he assisted in the building of maroon settlements and allied with Seminole Indians against slave hunters and military incursions. Since Seminole chief Osceola was married to a black woman named Morning Dew and had several mixed sons, the Seminoles were more receptive to black runaways than other Indian tribes. John Horse and Wildcat, one of Osceola's sons, were top lieutenants and battle strategists for the Seminoles. The Indians and blacks fought General Andrew Jackson and his military command to a standstill during the various Seminole Wars in Florida. White mercenaries and militia reported to the U.S. government that black runaways and leaders like John Horse were, quote, the best soldiers that the Seminoles ever had. After three great Seminole wars, the government defeated the Black Seminole Indian Alliance in part by capturing Chief Osceola under a flag of truce. Does that sound like it would? Did anybody catch that? Did that sound like what I think it sounded like? Let me read it again. After three great Seminole wars, the government defeated the Black Seminole Indian Alliance in part by capturing Chief Osceola under a flag of truce. Huh. Interesting. So that means they declared a truce and then captured him under the truce. Isn't that interesting? Very interesting. You learn from your history. You have to learn from your history. You got to learn the tactics, Shannon Sharp. When Chief Osceola died in prison, John Horse and Wildcat became the Seminoles' new leaders. In 1844, John Horse, Wildcat, and other chiefs traveled to Washington and met with President Polk to develop a peace accord. As a compromise in the 1850s, both Horse and Wildcat were asked to assist the government in relocating the Seminoles to Arkansas. Horse took his black Maroons with him to this new Indian territory. Seminoles and black Indians did not find peace in the new territory. They were constantly harassed by their old enemies, Creeks, Chickasaws, Cherokees, and Choctaws, and whites, all of whom were slave traders and slave owners. Let me say that again. Their old enemies, Creeks, Chickasaws, Cherokees, Choctaw, and whites, all of whom were slave traders and slave owners. So don't believe that every single Native American was your friend. They owe you a couple $1 trillion, actually, because they cut you out of the 1866 Indian Treaty, which I'm sure Dr. Anderson is going to break that down for you. Let's keep going. Cherokees, Choctaws, and whites, okay, we mentioned that. Horse and Wildcat labored to feed the black and Indian families, but after white slave hunters murdered Wildcat, John Horse concluded that 50 years of fighting was enough. He decided to relocate to Mexico. John Horse packed up his black and Indian families and rode off into the setting sun toward Mexico. They were never seen nor heard from again. Okay. Shout out to John Horse. You gotta love that. That's beautiful. All right, next story. A black hero brought Christmas cheer. During the Christmas holidays in 1811 in Richmond, Virginia, a black slave showed compassion for his fellow man that is frequently spoken of but rarely demonstrated. On the day after Christmas, Richmond High Society gathered in a local theater to see a visiting play. During the play, a prop boy dropped a lamp that immediately ignited the flimsy scenery and set the theater ablaze, trapping a large number of wealthy white slave owners inside. A slave and blacksmith named Gilbert Hunt, who happened to be outside the theater, rushed to the burning wood structure. Wow, so we love saving people. Strong and agile at 6 foot 2 inches, Hunt fearlessly stood beneath the burning building and caught the screaming people as they were lowered out the window by a one by one by Dr. James McCall. The last woman, Dr. McCall's own sister, was so large that Hunt was unable to catch her, using his body to break her fall and save her life. Despite Despite Hunt's heroics, more than 68 whites and 5 blacks perished in the fire. In the aftermath of the tragedy, petitions urging that Gilbert Hunt be emancipated in appreciation for his heroism were ignored by his owner. So, despite the fact that he saved a bunch of white folks, his owner would not let him go. Then history repeated itself, and Hunt once again was a great hero. This time, during a great fire in the city's penitentiary, prisoners were trapped on the second floor of the jail. The only escape route, windows, were covered by heavy iron grates. Hunt rushed to the scene. He held a fireman on his shoulders who used a crowbar to tear out the grating embedded in the bricks. Once again, declared a local hero, Hunt was again denied meritorious manumission. By this time, however, he had earned enough as a blacksmith to buy his own freedom. He remained a hard-working tradesman until his death in 1863. Half a century later, a tablet to his memory was permanently affixed to the wall of Richmond's monumental Episcopal Church. So, shout out to Mr. Gilbert Hunt. Gilbert Hunt. Write that name down. You can go look it up if you go down to Richmond, Virginia. Okay, so by the way, I'm reading Dirty Little Secrets by Dr. Claude Anderson. His website is powernomics.com. If you really really are into this type of stuff, I encourage you to be a community educator. Buy a bunch of copies, give them away to kids. That's what we do. Anybody who comes in our house is going to learn what we're all about. We're all about the Powernomics philosophy. So I encourage you to go to Dr. Anderson's site. Make sure your kids are familiar with these ideas. You should be teaching them history. Also, the other thing I want to mention to you is for those of you that want to join us at the Economic Elevation Summit that's going to happen in Miami. It's going to be May 9th and 10th, and it's where we're going to gather and we're going to economically elevate each other. So if you have an interest in that, you can go to economicelevationsummit.com. That's economicelevationsummit.com. And also, what I'll do is some of you are asking about virtual tickets. So if you want to watch the live stream instead of being in the room, I recommend being in the room so you can meet people. That's why we're doing it. But if you can't be in the room, that's okay. We will make the virtual tickets available for sale. Just get on the text list. I'll text out the link. Text the word morning to the number 87948. Text morning to the phone number 87948, and I will send you all the link to join the Economic Elevation Summit online if that is your preference. All right, so let's continue reading here. All right, so we're on page 24 of Dirty Little Secrets by Dr. Claude Anderson, and he says Harriet Tubman. This is called Harriet Tubman, a female role model. Without a doubt, Harriet Tubman was a bare-knuckled freedom fighter and liberator of her people. As the progenitor of the Underground Railroad, a metaphor for helping fugitive slaves escape to Canada or free states, Tubman did a man's work and bore the lash. Although her spirit was as strong as her body, she carried a pistol and was prepared to use it to engender respect from whites and intestinal fortitude from cautious blacks. At great risk to her own life, Tubman made repeated trips into hostile southern areas to draw enslaved blacks out of captivity. Over a 30-year period, she led more than 300 escaping black slaves to freedom in the North. According to legend, Tubman announced her departure times on the Underground Railroad at least twice a day by singing the hymn Steal Away and Follow the Drinking Gourd within earshot of slave cabins. To guide the runaway slaves, the song suggested that they follow the tail of the Big Dipper constellation to the North Star. After escorting hundreds of runaways to freedom, Tubman was finally able to entice her own parents into the Underground Railroad and guide them to North as well as to freedom's land. She supported John Brown's Harper's Ferry raid and would have accompanied him had she not been ill. Later during the Civil War, she served as a nurse and spied for the North. For over a generation after the Civil War, she cared for poverty-stricken freed slaves. After a 40-year fight with the United States government, she finally received a Civil War pension in the early 1900s just before she died. Ain't that interesting? You get it right before you die. Ain't that funny? All right, so by the way, I want to share this link with you while we're talking. So here's a link to I just saw it, the link to the virtual economic elevation summit. So there's the virtual pass if you want to join that way. So I'm putting the link in the chat. So feel free to click on that if you want to join us there for that. Okay. All right. So moving on. A gun-toting female mail carrier. Throughout history, black women have been forced to act and perform like men just to survive. One such woman was Mary Fields, known as Black Mary. Reportedly born a slave in Tennessee in 1832, Black Mary lived first in Mississippi and then in Ohio. Later, she moved to Montana, where she became one of the most memorable characters in the annals of Western history. Tall and weighing in at more than 200 pounds, she was a gun-toting stagecoach driver and the second woman ever to regularly drive a U.S. mail route. A crack shot, she wore a .38 pistol strapped under her apron. Black Mary's reputation earned her many dangerous routes inhabited by Indians and mail bandits. Her reputation for expertly employing her weapon to protect both the mail and herself dissuaded many would-be robbers. At her death by natural causes in 1914, Black Mary was mourned by her townspeople as a black pioneer. How cool is that? See, I want to hear about people like this in school. This has been great. All right. Next, the first black naval hero. Robert Small was born a slave. A lot of y'all are veterans in here. First of all, shout out to the veterans. How many of y'all, if you're a veteran, shout yourself out. Thank you for your service. God bless you. I appreciate you so much. All right. So Robert Small was born a slave behind the Cotton Curtain, but became a black hero. Just after the outbreak of war in 1861, Small, who had learned about ships and sailing from his father, was made a pilot of the Planter, a steamboat the Confederacy used to transport guns and ammunition to the rebel army. On the night of May 12, 1862, the ship docked in the Charleston, South Carolina harbor, and the Planter's white officer went ashore. After alerting the 7 other African American seamen on board, Small donned a captain's dress uniform, took control of the ship, and steered it out of the Charleston harbor, past the guns of Fort Sumter, and into a northern port behind Union lines. This black man stole the damn ship. Wow. Neither the North nor the South commanded much of a navy, even though ships were vitally important to the moving of military troops, supplies, and weapons. So the Northern Union was delighted with Small's escape and military gifts. They needed the ship, its valuable cargo, and its skillful and courageous pilot. The Union Navy expressed its appreciation to Small by making him the chief pilot of the Planter. After the Union used the ship in its successful attack on Charleston, Small was promoted to captain. Later, he left the Union Navy, joined the Union Army, and was awarded the rank of Brigadier General. Small's military career ended with the Civil War because national public policies returned to its pre-Civil War prohibition of blacks holding high military status, especially during peacetime. So much for your allies coming through for you. We won the damn war and they still went back to pre-Jim Crow. Reconstruction policies offered Small an alternative career. He left military service and entered politics. He was elected to the South Carolina state legislature and in 1871 became a U.S. congressman, serving 4 terms. President Benjamin Harris later appointed him customs collector for the port of Beaufort, South Carolina, where he served until his death at the age of 76. Robert Small was a high-ranking military officer and politician, but first and foremost, he was Black America's first naval hero. His name's Robert Small. So shout out to Mr. Robert Small. Love that. All right. So let's do one more and then we can finish up for today. All right, black political heroes. Frederick Douglass was born a slave in 1817 to a white father and a black mother who gave him the name Frederick Augustus Washington Bailey. In 1838, as a young adult, he escaped from slavery. As a fugitive, Douglass became a militant political leader who spoke at abolition rallies throughout the North. When his best-selling autobiography, Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass, an American Slave, was published, he earned a reputation as an outspoken and eloquent black hero. Although Douglass was a political radical, he frowned upon black nationalism. He based his views and tactics on the principles of compromise and nonviolence. Those principles were adopted a century later by India's Mahatma Gandhi, who in turn served as a role model for Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., the Nobel Prize-winning black civil rights leader. Prior to the Civil War, Frederick Douglass was the most prominent and respected black in America. But unlike John Brown, a white man who was willing to pay the ultimate price for black freedom, to die for black people, Douglass did not match his rhetoric with action. Because Brown believed that black slaves would not join a group of freedom fighters led by a white man, he beseeched Douglass to join him on the raid on Harper's Ferry. Douglas refused to join Brown, arguing that the plan did not stand a chance of succeeding. Prior to his death in 1896, Douglas revealed the real reason behind his decision not to join Brown in the raid on the Harper's Ferry Armory to secure weapons for a mass slave revolt. Sorry, let me see. He revealed the real reason. Sorry, that for his sorry. Let me. I'm stumbling on my words. Douglas revealed the real reason behind his decision not to join Brown in the raid on Harper's Ferry Armory to secure weapons for a massive slave revolt. Douglas confessed that he refused to join the Freedom Riders, not so much because he thought Brown's raid would fail or because he opposed violence, but because the most famous black man in America was afraid for his life. History suggests that Frederick Douglass did not mind being a black hero, but he did not want to be a black martyr. Mm-hmm. Interesting. Okay. Well, according to Dr. Anderson, a lot of you veterans have something up on Frederick Douglass because I know y'all put your lives on the line for this country, and I respect you for that. And I think a lot of people don't understand what that really means. People will talk a lot, but the actual doing is a whole different level. And so that's it. I think that's enough for today. I think we had enough to kind of think about. We do this every Wednesday night, and also, we meet for economic elevation class every single morning at 10 a.m. Eastern. So if you want to join, make sure you text that word "morning" to the number 87948. Text "morning" to 87948. And also, tomorrow we're doing stock options tomorrow and Friday. So tomorrow, Coin meets. Coin is a certified options investing network. That's where we learn options from A to Z. Tomorrow we're going to cover iron condors and butterflies, straddles, things like that. So if you want to join the next cohort, this cohort is full. There's no more people accepted, but we're going to have another cohort in 5 weeks. So if you'd like to join, you can go to go to drboycefinance.com, drboycefinance.com. There's a wealth guide there, and also you get an invitation to talk to someone if you would like to do a wealth session with one of the staff on Coin. And then also Prime is Friday. Prime is based on generating income from options. So it's almost like starting a business, except instead of selling shoes or cookies, you're selling stock options. That's a great business. So if you're interested, you can go to drboyceprime.com, Dr. Boyce Prime. So Dr. Boyce Finance, Dr. Boyce Prime. I'll send links out as well. So I hope that helps. And so God bless you guys. Have a great day. I got to get back. I got some junk I got to finish up tonight, but it was great to see you. Thank you guys for hanging out with me, and I look forward to talking to you soon. Take care.